Inibehe Effiong. This is a live show, so you feel free to ask your questions. So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yes, let's quickly go into this matter. Many times lately, we realize that it's not every law that we read about at school, as secondary school students, even at higher institutions, that are actually effective. You are a lawyer. Are you sometimes worried about how laws have no impact, especially when you talk about the rule of law? Are you worried or are you not? Is it a normal thing that we don't obey laws in this country, or we don't follow the laws?
The efficacy of the law is a reflection of the society that we live in. If you live in a society where there has been consistent decadence, where people do not have regard for due process, where citizens believe they can subvert the process, or where there is no incentive for people to even adhere to the law. So compliance becomes very difficult. You know, such laws, we call them dead letter laws. It's like the law against smoking. Nobody enforces it. But the point is that the crisis in this country, as it relates to the rule of law, compliance with the law, is a reflection of the Nigerian society. It is not just about the lawyers, it is not just about the judges.
But you mentioned something like dead letter laws, which makes it sound like it's not a creation with Nigeria. There must therefore be, you must have stemmed from global practices, or you must have been existing for long. It's not as if it's unique or peculiar to Nigeria.
What makes a law seems to be ineffective is multifaceted. Either the institutions are weak, or there is no punishment or sanction for violation. And that is the bane of the Nigerian society. The culture of impunity has festered. It has permeated all strata of the Nigerian society. People just have this strong belief that they can do whatever they want and get away with it. So that culture of impunity is what erodes the confidence of the common man in the legal system. Is what makes it looks normal that a court, for example, can make an order, and that order is flouted without consequence. Nobody is penalized for flouting orders of courts, to the point that politicians now turn lawyers and judges. When they rig elections, like we have now seen in Kogi State, the rape that took place in Kogi State in the name of election, politicians, including the president, will now turn their opponent and say, go to court, go to court, go to court. They are not asking you to go to court to seek justice. Even when they know they have done what is wrong. They are challenging you to go to court because in their mind, as far as they are concerned, the legal system is incapable of punishing bad behavior. That is why you often hear in political circles, it is now part of a political lexicon for politicians to taunt their opponents and challenge their opponents to go to court. In a country that the rule of law is effective, in a country that laws are respected, nobody will just wake up and challenge you to go to court because they know there's a consequence for going to court. But now in Nigeria, you can even go to court and get judgment, and the order of the court is disobeyed.
Let's come to specifics in Nigeria. Recently we have seen situations where there will be order by the judge, and then, certain agencies will just decide, no, we don't want to obey this one. Or maybe they are not saying it, but we can say that there is no compliance. What could be responsible for that, and what is the solution when there are apparent disobedience to court orders?
Again, the problem is the culture of impunity. The culture of impunity has so taken roots in this country that government after government, regime after regime, president after president, governor after governor, senator after senator, people believe they can do whatever they like and get away with it. Otherwise, how else do you explain? For example, the current case involving Mr. Sowore, where the State Security Service, and I refuse to refer to them as Department of State Services or DSS, and the media should also take interest in that point. Because part of the impunity we are talking about is the sheer audacity for an agency that is created under the law, under the National Security Agencies Act, as State Security Service, abbreviated as SSS, to now abandon the name statutorily created and now adopts a different name known as Department of State Service. That's why when they say Sowore said DSS will not exist, DSS has never existed. So why is the media referring to them as DSS? There is no agency known to law in Nigeria today as DSS or Department of State Service. The agency that the law knows, for example, if you want to take them to court or if they are taking you to court, the only name that is known and cognizable under the law is State Security Service. So part of the reform and part of the rule of law compliance is for us to insist that they should operate by the name by which they are created. It was Marilyn Ogard who started this DSS nonsense.
So DSS does not exist?
It has never existed. As far as I'm concerned, it has never existed. So when people say, Sowore said DSS will not exist, which is even false, by the way, he never said so. He was only relaying a reported speech. What he claimed a state chairman of the AAC told him, to Idris Abdul Karim. It was not his view, but that is not the argument for today. When we get to trial, we'll make that point. What I'm saying as that today is that there is no agency in Nigeria known to law as DSS or the Department of State Service. The only agency known to law is State Security Service, SSS.
Okay, now you said that part of the reason that laws could be disobeyed is because you are the kind of people who already have, first training or, portray their secrecies in positions. Now let us also come to the police. How are we addressing these things? Because it also always turns out that it is the security departments or agencies or institutions that are always the first who are supposed to be enforcing the law are usually the first to break it. And I'll make a point. There was a time, in fact it was during the time the current president was still contesting, that the court already said, gave the order that you do not need police permits to go on a protest, because it is expected that the police should already have the ears and intelligence to know anytime people gather, just find out the purpose of it, because people have rights to freedom of association. But we still have the situation where police is still infringing on people's rights. The question I have for you, Barrister, is why is it that court makes orders, institutions still do not follow those orders? If they manage or pretend to follow it for a while, after a while again they turn around against it. What is the law doing? What are the courts doing? What is the Nigerian Bar Association doing to make sure that all these things that you are all the gains of litigations at courts are sustained and not eroded?
Look, the truth of the matter is that the Nigeria police force, as of today, operates basically as a private militia for every government in power. We do not really have a policing institution that serves the public or the public good or the nation. For example, the Inspector General of Police publicly stated at the National Assembly that he does not know the number of policemen in Nigeria. If the IGP cannot say authoritatively, categorically, the number of policemen, the number of officers in the police, that tells a troubling story of institutional decay. So what we see is that under the Constitution, the president is given enormous powers. For example, Section 215 of the Constitution. The president is given enormous powers to give lawful directives, lawful directions to the Inspector General of Police. Now, under the Police Act, Cap P19, Laws of the Federation 2004, the police also has certain responsibilities, for example, specifically under Section 24, where the general powers of the police are stated. I'm giving this background because it is important. The reason why the police in Nigeria has become a criminal organization is because every administration has consistently treated the police as the militant wing of the ruling party. That's why during elections, the average policeman feels obligated to support the government in power. And this is unfortunate because the consequence is that that pattern of politicization has now affected all aspects of policing. So whether you are looking at what SARS, the monstrosity that SARS has become, that detention centers are becoming abattoir, human abattoir, where Nigerians are killed and slaughtered without consequences. It is because the average policeman knows that the culture of accountability is lacking. And they also know that the politicians have privatized, the police has been privatized in Nigeria.
So who owns it?
It is the politicians. The police has been privatized. If you look at the number of policemen that are designated to protect VIPs alone, how many are left to protect the common man? All local government chairmen in Nigeria have policemen. All senators have policemen. All House of Reps members, House of Assembly members, governors, commissioners. By the time you finish computing the number of policemen that are made to protect VIPs, you no longer have a public institution. It has become a private organization. So when every new Inspector General of Police say, oh, we are withdrawing policemen from VIP, then we know it is a lie. It is a lie. That is why it becomes difficult for the police to discharge their statutory responsibilities. Because they now see themselves as an appendage of the establishment. That is why in Nigeria today, if you don't have money, you cannot engage the police. If somebody comes to fight with you, somebody comes to steal your property, for the matter to even be incidented, they'll tell you you have to open a file. And that involves money. For the IPO to conduct a so-called investigation, either to arrest suspects, to interrogate people, to investigate the crime scene, forensics and so on, you have to pay for it. Even after conclusion of so-called investigation, they'll tell you, come and close the case file. Again, you have to pay. So how can you tell me the police has not been privatized when Nigerians have to pay for all services rendered by the police? For the police to go and effect an arrest, they'll tell you they don't have money for fuel. So the truth of the matter is that we do not really have a police institution in Nigeria. That is the truth.
Let's come to, recently there was also debate over whether police has right to check people's phones on the street, on the road, and all of that. But we have seen that despite, legal arguments saying that it's not the duty or right of the police to do all of this, we still see police harassing people. What would you advise Nigerians if you find yourself, between Benin or a road, it's just bush by the left and right. Police stops you and is asking to check your laptop and all that, and you don't have your own private security, and they have insisted and they are about to start assaulting you. Do you continue to insist on law, knowing that you know that the police does not respect law and they don't care?
It is a dilemma. People will tell you a dead man cannot fight for his right. So if it is a life-threatening situation, you may have to allow them to do what they want to do and seek redress later if possible. But legally speaking, Section 37 of the Constitution is explicit on the right to privacy. And under that section, phone is mentioned. Under Section 37 of the Constitution, it states that the privacy of the citizens, including their phones, telephone conversations, telegraphic communications, and so on and so forth, are guaranteed and protected. And even their homes. So there's already a constitutional right to privacy under Section 37 of the Constitution. The police on their own have a policy that says that you cannot begin to just check people's phone. What is their business? Phone is a personal property. What is the business of the police with my phone and laptop, for example? I mean, ordinarily, police have no right to just stop you on the road and begin to ask you questions or to search you. The law says there must be reasonable suspicion.
Yes.
What is reasonable suspicion? Reasonable suspicion cannot be actuated by mischief. There has to be an information, a credible information to warrant such a search. And the best they can even do is to confiscate the phone if they are convinced that this phone may be evidence of commission of either internet fraud or so on. But they must seek an order of court before they can search that phone. And Section 45 of the Cyber Crimes Act clearly says so. Police cannot begin to just search your phone. It is a personal property. It is a personal property. They have no right to do so. So for anybody to say police have the right to search my phone, it means they also have the right to search my boxers, to search my clothes.
Because it has been categorized also as privacy.
Yes, because I can as well hide things there. They can also come to my bedroom and begin to carry my mattress to look for evidence of crime. Look, Nigeria is not a jungle, or we should not allow Nigeria to become a jungle. Nigeria should not be a police state where you have a big brother that monitors your movement. We are not a conquered people, and we should refuse to be a conquered people. So this culture of impunity in the police has to stop.
It's funny to me, at some point, when somebody brings a genuine matter, a genuine case, and wants to prosecute, you are a lawyer, you stand for the person. And the person is suing the police, for instance. The police will also have a lawyer, also representing the police, and defending the act under the same law. Are you proud of what you're doing?
No.
Defending and arguing against injustice.
No, but that is the only way you can have a just society. Every person has the right to legal representation. And there is also the right to presumption of innocence under Section 36, subsection 5 of the Constitution. The police have the right to representation. But what I can tell you from experience is that more often than not, they are defeated because of their culture of impunity. And I can tell you personally, I have defeated them in several instances, in several cases, because of the culture of impunity. So the truth of the matter is that the police in Nigeria do not really do investigation. Any serious trial lawyer knows police do not investigate. And all the so-called bravado that they put up is at their station, not in court, where we lawyers also have an opportunity to deal with them. So the point is that police have the right to engage lawyers to defend them in court. And we should not penalize them for that. They have to be heard. It is the right to fair hearing. But the question is, who is right when the matter gets to court?
But you were saying that when they get to court, they don't really have that bravado.
No, they can. No, of course.
But we saw it in insurance case, for instance. Without even approval or permission of the court, without even mentioning, they just came, brought their gadgets, they want to start a secret trial.
No, that was a conspiracy between the prosecution and the registry of the court. And I say so without apology, because that is what happened. And of course, at the end of the day, you saw what happened. We strongly oppose it. If it was at the station, will you put that opposition successfully? If it was at the South, at the SSS office, people can do anything behind us. But when the matter comes up, every lawyer has the opportunity to be heard.
The worry I have here is, Sowore is not just any Nigerian. So many things about his profile. So he's you can call him a prominent Nigerian. But Sowore is going through all of this, and they are still holding him against court order to release him on bail. If this happens to Sowore, despite team of strong lawyers like your FF, Falano SAN, and the rest of them, how much more ordinary Nigerian? What is the hope of the common man in this law?
No, what Sowore is going through is what most Nigerians go through the criminal justice system. If you want to establish what I just said, go to Magistrate Court Oba today or tomorrow morning. You will see Lagosians, residents of Lagos, who are being bundled like animals, like cattle in Black Maria every single day by so-called Lagos Task Force, which is basically a criminal organization. They bundle people, they go on raids, pick innocent people on the road. Nigeria, they are basically criminalized poverty. The Lagos state government has criminalized poverty. So what I'm saying is that if you go to that court in the morning, you see people being brought into the court. Sometimes they are even chained. Most of them cannot even afford legal representation. At the end of the day, they are thrown into Kirikiri prison or Ikoyi prison for very flimsy things, so even walking on the road. They don't have legal representation. Most of them do not even have the resources to fight for themselves. So the criminal justice system in Nigeria has gone down. This is what Nigerians go through. So it's just that Sowore's case is political. That is the truth of the matter. But what Sowore is going through is symptomatic.
So does politics overrule?
It is not supposed to. It's not supposed to. But when you have a president that is disoriented, a president that is totally disconnected from the 21st century, a president that does not understand why laws should take precedence over so-called national security, in which case it is still the law that determines what is national security. When you have a president that places premium on cattle over human beings, and we saw that when cattle were being slaughtered by rustlers in the northwest and the northeast, Buhari personally put on his military camouflage. One of the few occasions he has done that since he was sworn in 2015. He put on his military camouflage and personally went to constitute a joint task force to protect cattle. You have also seen what the government has done in terms of Ruga, in terms of the so-called livestock program. Even in Benue State, when indigenes were being slaughtered, Buhari said you need to learn how to accommodate your brother. So you have this person that is parochial in nature, primitive in thinking, a president that has no regard for human life. And we saw that when the Sheds were being slaughtered. And unfortunately, we have become a nation of killers. How do you explain a situation that people who are not armed, simply because you disagree with the ideology, you now sent army to slaughter them, to kill them, just because they prevented the chief of army staff from moving on the road? So obstruction of traffic is now a capital offense under the Buhari regime. You have a president that's super intense over such mass slaughter, including the killings of the members of IPOB. The point I am making is that, what do you expect in Sowore's case? When you have a president that has no element of human sympathy. He lacks empathy. He's not concerned. He can afford to travel abroad, claiming he's on a private visit. What do you expect to happen in Sowore's case?
But I have to come in at this point. You have been mentioning, with respect to Sowore's case, you have been mentioning the president. But we are aware that it is not the president that is holding Sowore, but the SSS, as I said, it's no longer DSS. It never was DSS in the first place. It is the SSS that has refused to obey court order. So why are you mentioning President Buhari?
Oh, well, this question is very strange to me. Under the National Security Agencies Act, the State Security Service is only accountable, unfortunately, to the president. The SSS does not take instruction from any minister in Nigeria, not even the vice president.
And not from courts.
They are supposed to be subject to the orders of the court. But I have just told you that Buhari's regime has turned the country to a banana republic. So let nobody tell me that Buhari has no hand in Sowore's detention. That would just be lie. In any case, are you saying he's not aware? Because they keep telling us Buhari is not aware. And is the nominal complainant in this case. Buhari is the nominal complainant because the so-called charges against Sowore is that he wanted to overthrow the president. Treasonable felony, that he had formed an intention to overthrow the president, Buhari. That is what the charge says. The other count says he's cyber-stalked the president. President Buhari. So how can you tell me that the nominal complainant, the alleged victim of the so-called revolution now, is not aware that Sowore is being detained against court order? Is he living in space? So when you have an agency that is directly under the control of the president, detaining a Nigerian for purportedly planning to overthrow that same president against court order, how can you tell me the president has no hand? The president has a hand. And it is a tragedy that many Nigerians are finding stupid excuses. And I'm sorry to use that word. But that is what it is. People are now finding imbecilic explanations for this absurdity that is going on. There should never be an excuse under the sun for the order of a court of law to be disobeyed. No matter how perverse that order is, what you can do is to go to court to set it aside. President Buhari is in office today because of the court. Because the Supreme Court has said he was validly elected. So can you imagine if Atiku chose to disregard the decision of the Supreme Court and mobilize his supporters across the country and call on people to take up arms to challenge the outcome of the election against the order of the court? Would that not be anarchy? So what happens when the president, the executive, those who have the responsibility to enforce law are now the violators of the law? It means the end has come, the republic has come to an end. You cannot have a republic without rule of law. So let no Nigerian, let no sane Nigerian defend the detention of Sowore. So when they say, oh, let his shorties, because that is what some people are saying. Oh, why can't we just allow his shorties, to go and sign for his release?
I was going to come to that point.
We are already there, and I asked the question. What business do Sowore shorties have with the SSS? Absolutely none. And I'm saying it publicly that Sowore shorties will never, at least as at now, we've not changed our mind and we don't have any intention of doing so. Sowore shorties will not go to the SSS because we know what their plan is. The connection they have, the obligation they have is to the court. They don't have any business with the SSS. So for the fact that Sowore is being detained against the order of a court, it means the government has no legitimacy. The Buhari regime has totally lost legitimacy. This regime is now ruling by force of arms. Because a government that has legitimacy will not have a second thought whether to comply with the order of a court or not. Recall that when Sowore was arrested on the 3rd of August, if I'm not mistaken, they claim he was arrested for terrorism. As a matter of fact, the order for his detention, after they had illegally detained him for some days without a court order, and we challenged them, they now ran to court and got an ex parte order. Under the Terrorism Prevention Act, they applied for 90 days. The judge, Justice Taiwo, asked them to detain him for 45 days. Under the Terrorism Prevention Act, at the end of the day, as I speak to you, there is no charge of terrorism against Sowore. None. Which means that his detention is unlawful ab initio. So if you got an order under the Terrorism Prevention Act and you have not charged him under that act, why did you detain him under that act? And people are still making silly excuses for the SSS. Even when the order had elapsed, they ran to court for extension. We confronted them in court. And they withdrew the application. The judge ordered them to release him. They flouted that order. Even after he had deposited his international passport with the court. And we had sworn to an affidavit of compliance. So this is actually the second order that the SSF has flouted. And it is a sad commentary. Because for me as a lawyer, this is painful. This is the worst time to be a lawyer in Nigeria. The weak has now become a symbol of shame. The weak is supposed to be a symbol of pride. One should be happy to announce himself, to treat himself as a legal practitioner. But in Nigeria today, being a lawyer under the Buhari regime has become a cause for laughter. Because lawyers are now being faced with a situation where the laws of the country are disrespected by the man who swore to uphold the Constitution. If anybody is guilty of treason, it is the president. I say it and let them do their worst. Because when you have a president who has sworn to uphold the law, and he supervises over the violation of the order of the court, and he allows this culture of impunity to fester, it means that is a coup on the Constitution. So we should look at what is happening in the US. President Trump is facing impeachment because of a phone call that went wrong. Can you imagine that? The most powerful man on earth, leader on earth, President Donald Trump, is facing impeachment inquiry in the House of Representatives because of a call, a telephone conversation he had with the president of Ukraine. Haven't you seen how people serving in Trump's regime, Trump's administration, have appeared before Congress to testify against him? Can you imagine that happening in Nigeria? Where the DG of the SSS believes that is the houseboy of the president, that is there to protect. So what they are actually talking about is regime security, not state security. There has never been threat to state security. It is supposed to be state security service, not regime security service, not Buhari security service, not Daura security service, which is what they have turned the SSS into. It is now about regime security. And they say, oh, the president has a tenure of 4 years. Yes. But that does not derogate from the right of the Nigerians to call on the president at any time to leave office, as far as it is done within the ambit of the law. Or haven't you seen that there has been regime change through democratic means? Even if you start from the Arab Spring, look at what is happening in Hong Kong. Look at what is happening across Latin American countries now. Look at what is happening in Iran, in Iraq, in Bolivia, and all around the world. Why is the story of Africa different? Why are individuals being elevated above institutions? Why should the interest of one person that has lived on the goodwill of this country all his life, a president that is not known to have any private investment anywhere, apart from 150 cattle that the number has refused to change since 2011.
I'm going to ask, as we round it off gradually, what do you advise people to continue to protest?
Absolutely.
With placards?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Facing gun.
We are not a conquered, we refuse to be a conquered people. This is our country. We cannot run away for Buhari. He's not even, as far as I'm concerned, Buhari is totally disconnected from Nigeria. It is only his body that is here. The president's soul is in UK. That is when, don't you see how he smiles anytime he's traveling? The man is always happy to leave the country. But those of us who do not really have that opportunity, you should allow us to remain in our country. He just came back from a private visit. That you have a president of a country that lives on taxpayers' money, on public funds, traveling on a private visit, without having the courage to tell Nigerians where he's going to. And people are clapping for him. And they claim they were bringing change. So nobody can conquer the Nigerian people. And this is what Sowore's case is about. It is to silence Nigerians, to conquer Nigerians as we move towards 2023. There is a political agenda. So don't insult those who are saying that there is an agenda somewhere. Nigerians have the right to protest. Fundamental rights are called fundamental rights because they are rights that inure. They are rights that people are entitled to because they are human beings. Fundamental rights are not given to people by the government. It is not the government that gives people the right to protest. It is fundamental right because you are a human being. And Section 37 of Section 39 of the Constitution guarantees the right to freedom of expression. You can express yourself through placard. And in the case of Charlie Boy, Charles Oputa, an Inspector General of Police and two others, which I handle at the Federal High Court, Justice Sowore, Honorable Justice Sowore, the current Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, agreed with me that police cannot disrupt a lawful gathering of Nigerian citizens simply because they have a so-called intelligence that hoodlums will hijack the protest. Because that was what they said when Charlie Boy and others and the concerned Nigerian group protested one of Buhari's private visits. They resume or resign protest. The police said in court that they had intelligence report that hoodlums were going to hijack the protest. And I told them they were lying. The court agreed with me that under the current constitutional regime, the duty of the police is to protect Nigerians. So if people are going to protest for Sowore's release, and the police or the SSS receive intelligence from the moon, because it is never really intelligence. If these agencies have intelligence, Sowore should never have been arrested. Because Sowore's case is a perfect example of failure of intelligence. So nobody should be intimidated to stop protesting. We are never going to bow to dictatorship. We are never going to get to a point that every single person in this country will be so afraid to speak or to protest. People have the right to protest. And this regime cannot annihilate or emasculate that right. Nigerians have the right to protest. And why is Sowore being detained? Why is Bakare being detained?
Well, let me take one of your comments here. Somebody is asking on Facebook, don't you think what you're saying is hateful to Buhari and it can be used against you, especially now that it's hate speech bill is as successful.
What the Buhari regime is doing is also hateful. I don't care as far as I'm concerned. But we have to say these things. These are first statements of facts. I haven't said anything in this interview that is false. So the opinion of the president, the opinion of the SSS, the opinion of the IG, as far as I'm concerned, is irrelevant. I am only interested in what the law says. If the Constitution allows me to express myself, whether what I have said offends people is inconsequential.
Well, I don't know how to read this, but somebody on YouTube is writing in your language. I understand. Maybe you want to respond to that. I don't know.
He's saying I should be careful.
Okay, good. So I move on to the next. Okay, well, lastly, I'm just going to ask. Many people are kind of saying the solution to the problem in this country is to leave Nigeria. Many people are actually escaping because they believe that, yes, laws are not obeyed and Nigerians are dying in the hands of security agencies or personnel. So, what's your view? People should leave the country.
I cannot stop.
And go and see, have a taste of better sanity somewhere.
I cannot tell anybody not to leave. but you don't have to go to the Mediterranean Sea. But you know what? This is a country that is reported to have about 200 million people. How many people can live? Look at what is happening across Europe and the West. Nations are becoming conservative with immigration. From the US to the UK, all around the world, immigration laws are tightening. So we have to build our country. That is why we should never allow any president to destroy this country. That is why the interest of anybody in power should never be above the interest of the country. Because if this country burns today, there are presidential fleets, presidential aircraft that waits to take the president and his family outside. What makes you think Buhari is bothered? It's not. His children do not school here. His children do not seek medical attention here. The president too does not seek medical attention in Nigeria. He can afford the luxury and the leisure of going overseas while closing down Cotonou from the poor, while shutting down the border against the poor, stopping importation of rice, and encouraging local production. Why are you not encouraging local health care delivery? That is the hypocrisy of the political class. What I am saying in summary is that this is our country. And if we realize that this is our country, we have to fight for this country. I do not owe loyalty to the president. I will never owe loyalty to any president. My loyalty is to this country. My loyalty is to the law. So, whatever the president thinks shouldn't bother me. Why should it bother me?
Well, let me quickly read somebody's comment to you. Inem Asmi is on YouTube. He's asking, he's saying that we need people like you to actually lead this country. So I'm going to ask you whether you have any political interests anytime soon.
I don't. I don't.
Why don't you want to go?
No, because I believe I can play a more effective role
outside of what?
As I am doing. Nigerians have not suffered enough, unfortunately. We have to tell ourselves the truth. We have not. It may be difficult to say, but most Nigerians have not suffered enough. Because you can't be suffering and smiling at Fela. Are you not seeing the degeneration? Citizens are now endorsing impunity. Don't you see the comments on social media? People are finding excuses for very stupid things that the government is doing. The government is doing. And it is a sad commentary. How many Nigerians are coming out to protest about inflation, about rising unemployment, about killings? Why are we not seeing Nigerians taking interest in their country? So when you say come and contest election, do you even have the resources? Look at what we faced in the last election under the AAC. They even tried to steal our party. They tried to steal African National Congress from Sowore with a stupid accusation that he stole money, which is completely false. No money was stolen by Sowore from AAC. But people who just hate him for his gods, they want to be carried away by such falsehood. So the political system today makes it very difficult for revolutionary minds to take leadership position. But what I can guarantee is that we are not going to give up. Maybe in the future, that may be possible. But as of today, the greatest thing now to do, what history demands of me and people who think like me today, is to ensure that this country is not totally ruined. Because like I said in a different interview, I am not confident that this country will survive this regime.
What does that mean?
I mean, it is clear. The signs are clear. The law is becoming useless. The law is becoming useless. Even under military dictatorship, court orders were still obeyed. So you now have a government that is determined to conquer the Nigerian people. The Nigerian Bar Association, unfortunately, our own professional body, even though it has been issuing statements, it can do more, but that is not being seen. The NLC is totally emasculated. ASU only fights for the salary of its members. Who is really fighting for the Nigerian people? So when you see, look at now, they say they want to regulate social media. Of all the problems in the country, seriously? You are more bothered about social media? When people don't have food to eat? You are talking about regulating social media? When the same regime came to power, largely because of the power of social media. But we have now seen that the whole talk about change was a fraudulent misrepresentation. There was never an intention to change the country. These people were just after power, and unfortunately they had succeeded in deceiving many Nigerians. But we have an opportunity to take back this country. And this is not just about APC. PDP is doing the same thing. They are based off a feather. The social media bill passed. PDP legislators could not even stage a walkout. No stiff opposition. Nobody even tried to delay the passage. To filibustering. So you see that Nigerians are being left to their own fate. Look at what Ben Ayade is doing. I just read in the news this morning that he's creating a ministry for foreign affairs. Is that a governor that thinks well? Foreign affairs is under the exclusive list. And the governor every year will introduce a budget that the resources of the state cannot fund with esoteric names. He gives budget esoteric names and is detaining Abba Jalingo. He said Abba Jalingo wanted to overthrow him through a publication on the internet. This is the worst time in this country.
Thank you so much, Barrister Inibehe Effiong. We'll come again later and then we'll continue on other topics as they arise. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this live broadcast. If you just join in, please, you can always watch it back. It will remain uploaded on the channel, whether you're watching from YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, or LinkedIn. Thank you so much. You have to go now because his lawyers are already sweating. He's not very weak, so he has suits on, and we are in a tropical region. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you
for granting this interview. And then we'll see you again later. Bye for now.